Previously on The Outsider.
From now on, we have to assume that whatever Claude sees and hears, it sees and hears.
You asked me where my people are buried around here? The old bear cave. It's been sealed since 1947.
He's in there. We found him.
We're gonna be back in a couple of hours. It's not right. I'll tell them to get that hands out there.
What if it doesn't cotton to be contained?
We'll kill it before it can kill us.
What if it can't be killed?
You know what you just did.
I know what I just did. I gave you the heads up of your life.
He's in my head, Seal. So you just told that thing that all those people are coming for it.
All right. Welcome to the season 1 finale of The Outsider. I am one of your hosts, Kinte, all the way live from Los Angeles, California. I am so happy to be here with you talking about this final episode of season 1. Hopefully not the final episode of the series. Join with me is my beautiful and talented co-host, the one and only Jen. How you doing, Jen?
I am doing super good. I'm really excited to talk about the finale and some of the differences that I see between how a lot of people reacted to the season finale and how I reacted to it. And I am super interested to hear why you think there is this huge chasm between the two.
Yeah. I mean, look, I love the series a lot. Like it's no anyone don't have to wonder if I like the show or not.
Yeah,
I'm
right.
pretty out there with saying how much I love the show and how I'm a fan of the novel as well. So I enjoyed it. I enjoyed this episode. I thought this episode was better than the ending of the book. So so we can go into that as well. I feel like at the very end of the show, even though we don't have to worry about spoilers anymore. I mean, if you can't, we'll be spoiling the end of the novel. I feel we can talk a lot more about the book. We'll sprinkle a little bit of book versus movie. TV show. But for the most part, we'll be talking about what happened in this television series. So, Jen,
Yes.
we can go in order. I feel like this is more so than any of the episodes. We can go directly in order of events. I think that will serve this well.
Yeah, it probably does.
Okay, so we start out, really leaving off exactly where we left off at in the last episode. We have, of course, our boy Mr. Hoskins. He has a sniper rifle and he is going to town. He shot off Alec Pelly's head pretty much at the end of last episode, and now he is still gunning for more heads. One quick note: book versus TV series is in the novel. Hoskins is more so. A lot of his anger is aimed directly at Ralph.
Right.
And he really wants to kill Ralph. I mean, it isn't just the fact that he's being controlled by El Cuco. It's, you know what? This is like kind of a win-win. I can get healed from from his El Cuco's control. Plus, I can get rid of a guy I hated.
Right. Right. Exactly.
Right. So there's more. I would say there's more dislike towards his character than even the series. I would say, and maybe this is a good jumping off point because we can go to State of Mind with Hoskins, is in the novel, he's less of a sympathetic character. In this, he's more of a sympathetic character in my mind. What do you think?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I also think, though, that in the book we understand that El Cuco is so much more entrenched in Jack's mind. And I think that that's, at least the way that I read it, it feels like that's what fueled the rage for Ralph. That it wasn't just, well, Jack didn't like him or whatever. It was really, it was like El Cuco had poisoned Jack's mind to the point that that was all that Jack could see, is that, seeing Ralph through that haze, through that filter of hate, because he was basically the one who had figured out how to track him down. I
Right.
mean, there's not a whole lot of room in between. Um, it was actually solid detective work. Now, the interesting thing to me is, although I think, and it's one of the reasons that I feel like Jack in this episode didn't specifically target Holly, is because Jack, the just Jack himself, saw Holly as being the one person who perhaps tried to help him. And so, like, none of the rage and hate came out that way. It was just for in the book it was just for Ralph, but even here it feels like it was aimed at other characters and not at Holly. In fact, I'm almost positive, right, that he sees through the scope and has Holly almost in his sights, right, and he doesn't shoot. He says no more or
Right.
something. Yeah.
Yeah, he chooses not to harm Holly. So which is interesting, especially when he has, and it seems like a lot of it was, because she says, "Damn you to hell," and which is something out of it seems like something almost out of what's that um Planet of the Apes.
Oh yeah, like Charlton Heston. You blew it up.
It sounds like something straight out of Planet of the Apes, but damn you the hell. But
Oh my god.
um no, but I thought that she I really enjoyed her character, and um I really enjoyed this iteration of it. And I think we need to kind of go into a little bit more of what we were talking about when it comes to that, but not right at this moment. Let's
Okay.
get back to the fact that, okay, so there's a shootout, and the shootout's great, and the shootout is
Yeah,
very
it's
well
so
written.
tense.
It's very well written in the novel as well, but this one had more stakes and more people involved. The extra people is Andy, um, uh, also Bolton's brother, who is not even in the novel, and you had Bolton too. Claude Bolton wasn't there as well.
Right,
And
right.
so those are three extra people who are involved in the shooting, and Claude loses his brother, which, I mean, his brother didn't even try to hide. He just stood right there in front, and and he ended up getting shot. It's just like, oh man, what you doing there?
It's so much hubris. I mean, it was just like you could just feel the hubris coming off of him. Like, uh, you're not going to get me,
Right.
which is really crazy based on the fact that he was filled in on everything prior to heading out there. I mean, obviously he knows that he's dealing with something supernatural, but I think this also has to do with, remember how we've been talking about this entire series. The idea of belief makes such a huge difference in the fate of the characters. And well, I'm not saying the fate of the characters, but it has to do with how they interact with the storyline. And Claude's brother just refuses to accept the supernatural component of all of this. And even when he says that he does, I don't think he truly embraces it. And that's what makes him walk out in the middle and just go, yeah, okay, whatever.
Yeah. And so what about when Howie gets there? I mean, I guess we kind of went a little too far, but when Howie gets there, and you're like, "Oh no!" and they're trying to tell him like, "Hey, what?" Like, "Hey, hey, hey," It's like, oh, dude, don't you see the bullet holes and everybody hiding? But I guess it is what it is. So
It is there are in this scene there are just a couple of tiny, well, and actually it extends from before. There's just a couple of tiny things that are a little bit irritating because they don't make as much sense as I feel like they should. But yeah, you're right. It is what it is.
yeah. And then also we had the snake. Uh, you know, uh, in the novel, he's attacked by the snake. In this, he sees the snake because I don't think he even saw the snake in the novel until he just got bit by the snake. In this one, he saw the snake and then he shovels it away. And then in this novel, I guess we're kind of jumping ahead, but in this TV show, it's clear that the snake is being directed by El Cuco.
Right.
Whereas in the novel, I don't think it's as clear. I don't remember it being clear.
No, I don't. It felt very random and happenstance. In fact, it almost felt. But I think there's a reason for that, and the reason is because El Cuco tells in the novel. El Cuco tells Jack, "I can relieve your pain."
Right.
And I think in the series, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to have that be happening because we can't get that. We can't get the direct communication between the two without having El Cuco basically say it out loud in the cave. And that probably wouldn't have made as much sense.
Right. It worked better. It worked better in the novel than it would have, I think. Yeah, you're right.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, because you got basically him talking. You had a lot of inner monologues that you obviously don't have on the show.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, what do you think about Andy attempting to be a hero in the end? At the end, the last thing he did.
Oh, honestly, it's so sad. I, Holly is not always a super sympathetic character, partly because of the fact that she's very emotionally distant from other people, partly because she doesn't always feel like she has as much empathy based on, the flat affect of her emotion, although she is, but it just doesn't feel it all at all times. And, you could feel the pain from the character just jumping off the screen. That was heartbreaking. That was really heartbreaking.
I didn't like Andy, so I didn't cry when Andy bit.
It wasn't about Andy though. Honestly, for me, it was about Holly. It was about Holly's connection to him and why it was so sad for her.
I was hoping Andy was gonna get it. Oh, and she'll be fine.
You're so mean. Oh my god.
She'll be fine. It's he'll be fine or she'll be fine. But I thought that I wasn't too sad about him. Hey,
That's so bad.
I was like, oh, and I was like, because he was one of the characters that I thought was gonna probably get it. So I was just like, I like to be right.
But it's it said a lot that he was willing to sacrifice himself for everybody though.
Yeah, he was an idiot.
Oh God, you're so mean. Dude.
He was an idiot. Like, dude, like, why are you trying to be a hero? You barely know this chick. Like he's like, yeah, watch, I'll show her that I'm a hero, and then he got himself killed.
I think he genuinely really cared about her. I think he really wanted to save her.
Yeah, he was stupid. He barely knew her.
You know what? What? Seriously, love doesn't work that way, bud. Sorry.
You didn't love her. How could you love somebody you just met?
Oh my God. Really?
You just met? Are you one of those people that believe the love story in Titanic?
3/4 of every love story I have ever read is an immediate connection, whether the characters realize it or not. So yeah.
I know, and most of those stories are stupid. So I'm sorry.
3/4 of all the fiction I've ever read is stupid. Okay.
Yes,
Okay. All right. All right.
I'm just
I
saying.
liked it. I liked it. I thought I although I don't know, the character of Andy was he was a little, but I feel like he was perfectly paired with Holly because he was different too. Somehow he was different. I don't know exactly how, but somehow he felt different, and that made it just perfect for Holly.
What do you think about how Jack took himself out at the end? Which is
Man,
very
I did
different
not
than the
expect
novel.
that at all.
Yeah, that's very different than the novel.
Very.
And
And also, it definitely made him it made his death consequential.
right.
Whereas I feel like if Ralph had killed him, it wouldn't have made it as consequential.
Yeah, because then he's like, he's in the cave. Go kill him.
Mm, exactly. And just him saying that, obviously, El Cuco's gonna know that, there's that back and forth link, so he's gonna know what's going on.
Mhm. Okay, so let's get to El Cuco confrontation, right?
Okay.
Which is very, very similar to the novel. Because I believe there is a line with him saying, "Go ahead and use the railing and come down." Like, if I remember correctly, he did greet them like that. Like,
He said something like that, yeah.
yeah. So that, which is something that was my friend Miosha, who hadn't read the book, every time she would ask me, did that happen in the novel?" And I'm like, I vaguely remember him saying, well, I don't even want to say vaguely. I think I remember him saying something to that effect, like, just calm down, just, like he was, peaceful at first. And so,
Well, I
but,
think in some
go ahead.
ways in the book, El Cuco was intensely curious about how they had put it all together. And part of that, I think, was also his evolutionary strategy of staying alive. How did you manage to track me down this way when I have been so successful for hundreds, probably, of years doing this, probably more than that, without anybody figuring this out? How did you get it? And in some ways, again, this whole idea of not, belief is one huge part, but especially in where El Cuco is concerned, there's this hubris piece that comes in. That's like, I'm so unstoppable that you guys aren't going to be able to stop me. There's no way that you're going to be able to stop me from doing what I still need to do. I'll still survive. And so him inviting them down felt to me like that's exactly what it was. Like, I need to understand how you guys figured all of this out, and I'm not afraid of you at all. So sure, come on down. We'll have a shot of tequila and talk about it.
Right. And I'll say one thing, the book definitely had better, his description of how he looked would have been more eerier. I think they should have went that, because they said that his face was kind of a mix of Bolton slash
Yeah.
yeah, Maitland. And like the way it's described is way more scarier than just looking like Bolton. Um I think they wanted to have that moment where he was looking into a mirror, but I thought that it would have probably worked even better if they had that moment where he was where he looked like that kind of mix mash. I
Well,
don't know
I feel
why
like
they chose to do that.
I feel like they tried to get to that by having him go through all those phases at the end.
Yeah, that, which is from the novel as well.
Right.
That he changed into, people that he had been and whatnot. But I still believe that, I
Yeah, it definitely would have been scarier.
now I'll say this too, like another thing too about this is is the conversation that they have. Um it started out, it was so interesting, and then because she asked him, why kids, and in the novel it goes into depth a little bit more about kids, and she calls him a pedophile, which like pisses him off, and all of this stuff, and I don't know why they didn't do that in this.
I don't know either. Although I don't know. I mean, in some ways, I feel like they were trying to cram a whole lot into a very short time, and maybe they just felt that they needed to peel back some of it. I don't know, but yeah.
Were you well, okay, before I get into this, um were you disappointed? No, let me go there. Were you disappointed in that in the novel she gets the kill, and
Oh
they took it away from her in this?
no. I honestly, I actually felt more satisfied that Ralph killed him.
Why?
And I think in the book, I mean, in the series, everything led me to feel like Ralph should kill it. In the book, I did feel like Holly should kill it. I don't know how to describe the difference. There's something different about the presentation. Maybe it has to do with the way that they developed Ralph as a character in the series that was a little bit more like he really had some skin in the game with the death of his son, and like he had there were psychological reasons for him to need that fulfillment. Also, the other thing that I feel like was kind of maybe important, and I know we're going to skip around on that a little bit, but it also set up the very end. And if we didn't have Ralph go back for the final kill, then the very end wouldn't have made sense. If it had been Holly that did it, it wouldn't have made any sense.
Mm.
So, in some ways,
were
I
you
actually
expecting the worms to come out?
What's that?
Were you expecting the worms to come out?
I kind of was, but I also think that it was smart of them not to do that.
Really?
Because I feel like that might have actually signaled a more complete end instead of an ambiguous end.
Mm. Okay. Well, I'm talking about the worms.
I know.
Out of El Cuco.
Yeah, I know. But I feel like if people had seen that happen, they might have drawn the conclusion a little too hard that it was actually dead, instead of even with the worms crawling out. I feel like the way that they did this was actually it was way more subtle, but maybe a little bit better.
Okay. Let me ask this question. Were you did you think at first that they were going to pull one of those that they got the wrong Bolton?
Oh, for just a second when they were leaving, it maybe felt that way, but I think it felt that way because Holly looked back. Because at one point the camera shows Holly looking back into the cave just before Ralph kills it,
right?
And that made me think maybe there was something else going on. Like maybe it was mimicking someone else, possibly.
Right.
Which later I actually didn't feel that way after I saw the rest of the how they ended it. Then I didn't feel that way. But
Right. Are you glad that they didn't do that?
I'm very glad.
Yeah, it was kind of tropey, yeah.
But yeah, that would have felt really, and also I feel like it would have been inauthentic to El Cuco, because I don't think that that's what it would have done. I just, it just did nothing that we've seen so far tells us that it can transform that fast.
Right. Yeah, no, I agree. Okay, so what do you think about the fact that they actually decide to lie about what's going on.
So, ultimately, I was trying to remember how I thought about this in the book altogether, right? And it there are quite a few departures here. Um, but I think that Ralph choosing to lie here, and convincing Holly to lie, was super significant. Like, emotionally, that was very significant because Holly doesn't lie. Even when her own sense of sanity might be on the line, even when it might seem ridiculous, Holly doesn't lie. And so for her to go along with Ralph at that point was like a turning point, it seems like, for me, in terms of how much Holly really trusted Ralph. And then also, if we consider this last episode as kind of like a little mini hero's journey, when the journey comes to an end and the hero tries to rejoin the group, they're supposed to be really changed so that they don't quite fit in with the group that they once belonged in, but perhaps they fit in with the warriors now as, okay, now I've been assimilated into this group. So it kind of made sense to me. It was I think it was actually a good arc.
Okay. So you're totally fine then with that aspect of it.
Yeah, I think it actually kind of worked. It also gave us a chance to give a little bit of resolution to the Maitlands, and gave us a further opportunity to see an interaction between Ralph's wife and now I'm going to confuse them from the books, but from Terry Maitland's wife,
Right, Jeannie.
who has a different name in the series.
Yes.
Glory.
Glory, yeah.
Thank you.
Glory, yeah, because she's like, dang, now I forgot her name in the book. Uh, Hilarious. I know. There's some hardcore fans that are out there going, these guys.
What are they
You're
talking
killing
about?
me with not knowing the names.
Oh.
No, but no, I agree though. I think that I feel like this really they made some proper changes in my estimation with this, and I really feel like that this particular I don't know if I love the fact that I hear what you're saying about changing it, and it makes more sense for the TV show, but I did like the fact that Holly was the one who got the kill,
In the book, but I want you to think about something,
Okay.
because if Holly had killed El Cuco, the issue that I have is that anything that they lined up from that point forward would have to draw on that as canonical lore for the series, and I don't think that it will work as well, because Ralph is the doubting Thomas,
Mhm.
not Holly. And so if they are going to pair those two up again, then Ralph and Holly's already the believer. And
Mhm.
so by having Ralph kill El Cuco, we can go back to Ralph being the denier in some ways and have that dynamic continue to work. It doesn't work if Holly kills it and Ralph is there just to see it. It's not, Ralph killed it. Now in his mind, it is completely dead.
Okay. I mean, I feel you on that. I guess I'll give it to you. But I still feel like I don't know. Maybe I need to think about that some more.
So I just want to touch on something because I feel like it's super important to me, mostly because so much of a series' success anymore is its online and social media interactions. And I, of course, jumped on social media right away after the end of this episode and was absolutely devastated by the number of people who wrote things like, oh, that's it? Well, that was not great. That was unfulfilling. Why did they do that? What happened? I mean, I I had such a complete and total different feeling about this episode, about it as a season finale, that it was almost painful to read that.
Really? I
Yeah.
mean, I totally expected when I read it in the novel, and I knew it was going to be some kind of variation of that. I was not surprised that people were going to feel the way that they were going to feel.
Really?
Yeah, because I mean, I knew it wasn't going to be an ending that was just going to endear people to it. You know, I didn't mind it. You know, I thought it was fine, but that's me. I feel like most people they're not going to be like me when it comes to that.
Hmm. I don't know. I feel like maybe people missed some of the maybe they missed some nuances. Maybe it was too nuanced. I don't know. Maybe it's just because we read the book that maybe we have some uh, subtle understanding of things that maybe some people don't. I don't know. It's hard because I don't want to present this as, oh, maybe people weren't smart enough to get it or something. But at the same time, I'm also kind of confused about why people thought it was so underwhelming when I don't. What were they expecting? I guess that's sort of my bottom line. Like, well, what is it? What is it that would have made this better for you? I don't really understand what you think that they could have done that would have changed that.
I mean, I can see where they're coming from. It's I mean, everything ends with the conversation with the villain, and then it's you know bashed in the head with a rock. Like I get it. I mean, I get.
See, oh, okay. See, maybe this is why I see it differently, right? I think I see it differently because I see the ending of season one as the chapter opening to season two. And I feel like there is no way to get a season two unless we have an ending that isn't as resolute as perhaps people were looking for.
Yeah, but I mean, this is how it ends in a novel for the most part. I mean, he gets beat
Right,
up. He
but
gets
that's what I'm
beat
saying.
down.
The novel doesn't have a part two, but if the series is setting up a part two, then how else can you end it other than having it be a bit ambiguous? Because I'm just talking about series viewers now. I'm not talking about people who've read the book.
No, I'm saying that they basically took the same. It's basically the same ending. So, uh, except for one character does. Well, actually, I mean, the shotgun is different. That was
And they could have changed it. They could have, right?
right. I mean, it's not thrilling, is what I think they're getting at.
Hmm.
It's not as thrilling as the show up till then had been. I think that's where it's coming from. Like I enjoyed it, but I can see how other people may or may not feel the same way I do.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all.
So, okay, so I have to ask you a question now. So, what did you think was the purpose behind showing us that maybe El Cuco maybe had done something to perpetuate himself before he left?
What do you mean?
Well, okay, so I'm trying to think of a really good way to describe it. So we know that in the cave, he kind of goes through a bunch of people that it seems like maybe he's been before.
Right.
But didn't we see him also turn into Holly?
No, he turned into the black guy that committed suicide in the.
Oh. No, didn't he?
No, he turned into the black guy that.
Oh,
Yeah,
did I completely misread that?
yeah, because I mean
I may have.
that's from the novel as well. He turned into
Yeah, what's his name?
yeah.
Yeah, I do. I remember that. But for some reason I really thought that he had changed somehow or hmm, I don't know. Okay, I'll have to go back and think about that one. So okay, but no, no, I feel like that's not. I
Yeah,
don't know.
I didn't get that was Holly. I got it was the black
Oh,
guy.
I know what I'm thinking. I know what I'm thinking. I know what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that the scratch on Holly's arm at the very end meant that it was transforming into Holly. That's what I.
Oh, okay. Now that, yeah. Okay, so you want to go into that aspect of you're talking about the post credit scene.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's talk about that. Um oh, sorry about that. I think it's clear that they're trying to say that something's happened with her. Uh let me pull it up on
Well,
there.
she got scared and looked at the back of her neck with a mirror.
Right. Here we go. This is the scene right here. And I think that, and then remember, she said earlier in the season, I don't remember which episode, that she didn't care for music.
Right.
At the end of the episode, she's listening to the radio, listening to music.
Right.
So clearly something is.
And actually the song that plays is Ralph's mom's song. The song that Ralph talked about his mom listening to when they were talking about coincidence and happenstance.
Right.
The Washington Square song.
Right. So that right there.
Which seems to have even more significance.
Right. And you knew in a way that it was going to have some significance, you know. I mean, it was pretty obvious that we didn't just get that for nothing. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I don't know. Like I think that they're trying to set up, because all right, in the novel it gives, and also wait, I forgot about this too. She's looking up the Frankie Peterson investigation as well.
Right.
And let me see if I can. Will it take me? Yeah, there it is. And she's twirling her hair, which doesn't seem, very high.
We haven't seen her do that before.
Right. And then there's a part where, Terry Maitland's name is mentioned,
right?
And he seems not to know who he was.
That's right.
So
That's
it's like, right. Yeah. So is El Cuco inside of her now?
I don't know. I don't know. So it would either have to be that, or that El Cuco is changing into the likeness of her, and they have that connection.
And it's been a while at this point. How long had it been?
I don't remember.
Yeah, I remember that it had been like a while, so long enough for. It's been long enough for them to for something to happen.
Right. Although, wait, I got to tell you this before we move forward. Mm-hmm. So, do you remember when they are first coming into the cave and they see all of the animal skeletons and all of that stuff?
Mm-hmm.
Well, first of all, my kid said, "Oh, look, El Cuco's leaving his junk food wrappers around." But so we clearly know that there's enough life down in the caves for El Cuco to sustain himself
Mhm.
and possibly to gather enough strength. That
But
seems
I
plausible.
took that he brought it, that Hoskins was bringing that to him,
Oh, I don't know.
because I don't think they would be down there, would they?
Oh, no, that can't be. No, that can't be because Hoskins, even if cause some of that stuff was really old, and Hoskins wasn't there when he was trying to get to all of the survivors behind the big cave in.
That's true.
So, but he was definitely down there because we saw, the scratch marks and trying to get in and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
So, no, I think they were implying that there is definitely some food there. It's just not what he wants because it takes him longer to recover that way.
Yeah, it's not the food that he really enjoys.
No, definitely not any ambrosia.
So, go ahead.
I was just gonna say the point behind me thinking about that cave scene again was the idea that Holly could have been scratched by him seems plausible. I mean, there was a lot of scuffling, right? So it does seem kind of plausible, but it also seems just as likely that that somebody else could have.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't really understand what I don't get it. I don't understand it. It doesn't make any sense to me at all.
Yeah, like I don't think she was even that close to him to have been scratched.
That's what I was going to ask you. Like, what do you think it was Claude that scratched her?
It must have been Claude because she did carry him off.
That makes it even harder to understand.
I'm wondering if that's some stuff that they just put in there at the end to just because it doesn't seem like it makes any sense at all.
I don't know. I really don't know. I was hoping you would have some different insight into it because that was probably the only super confusing thing for me was that.
Oh yeah, no, I'm right there with you, kiddo. Like I was looking to you for that one. Yeah.
There were maybe it's supposed to be ambiguous just so that we don't sort of jump to one conclusion or another. But I'm having a hard time figuring out how they will reconcile that.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those old writing things. You write yourself into a corner and worry about it later. But let's see. Oh, I'm going online real quick. Let's see. Somebody wrote why it doesn't need a second season. No, we don't want to talk about that. Okay, I brought this up before. It says that that since the series scored better ratings than The Watchmen and True Detective,
wow,
that it's saying that the finale drew 2.2 million.
Wow.
Oh wow! As a whole, 9 million viewers across all platforms.
That's really surprising.
Oh wow! So they're saying that there's very good chance there's going to be a second season. Let's see what else is out there on the internet about it. Okay, it says Ben Mendelsohn doesn't know about season 2, but he's heard a few things. Let's see. Trying to find out. We're doing this real time, everybody, so bear with us. Okay, I don't really see. Kind of ran through that one. I probably should have read that one before we did it. So it looks like there might be a very good chance that there is a season 2, which is good news. We said that on a previous episode. But we won't know until they give that official word about season 2. So hopefully there will be.
I think we'll probably find out sooner rather than later if there is a second season. But I mean, my guess is that's going to take a lot for them to pull together.
Yeah. Oh, this is a great thing. Gabe in our chat room wrote, and I it says my theory is Holly knows an awful a lot about El Cuco. She compares herself as an outsider, like El Cuco.
Right.
Maybe she is one of them. And and kudos. There was a reviewer who I can't remember who it is. Somebody on YouTube. He's a really good one, and he mentioned this about the show not being called The Outsider because of El Cuco, but The Outsider because of Holly, which is interesting.
Yeah.
Which is an interesting. In the novel, El Cuco is referred to as the outsider multiple times, whereas in the TV show, I don't think they ever call him the outsider. So I don't know if that really works totally in that theory, but you can. But the TV show definitely, you could say that for sure. That
Right.
that maybe in their minds, she is the outsider.
Well, it does. It actually does kind of. It works. That does work. But I have to wonder if Holly. I have to wonder if Holly, when she says that, if it doesn't just mean that she is ultra sympathetic to the supernatural. I mean, like, there's so many. It's kind of weird because at this point the level of complexity with the character of Holly sort of runs in a whole bunch of different ways. And again, like we've referenced before with Mr. Mercedes, I can see why that would be, but I can also see why the series would say it takes what no. Okay, the reason that originally that I didn't think that that was what it was, that she was an outsider, was because she's the one with the scratch. It's not like if they had showed something different, if they had showed Holly leaving the cave and somebody else having the scratch, then I would say, oh, maybe it is Holly. But because Holly is the one who has the scratch and she frantically is searching the back of her neck for that rash, it makes me think that even though she understands, like maybe maybe she is even supernatural in her own way. She has her own offshoot of supernatural mess, if you will. That could work, but I don't think she can't possibly be the same thing as El Cuco.
No, I don't think that's where we're getting at. That she's an outsider in that regard. An outsider, as in an outsider to, them. Not that she's like El Cuco. Not at all.
Right.
Yeah. So,
and I guess that does work. I mean, I guess it does work. It's true.
yeah. So, any last words about this season or this series? I think at some point we should do like a full dissect of the whole season. But before that, any last words you want to talk about?
Well, first off, I'm actually really heartened by the viewership, by the ratings. That's amazing. And it tells me that people really are hungry for serial drama that is protracted, and the quote unquote slow burn in reveal still has a place, because to some degree it feels very much like excuse me, like we have sort of come to a place in storytelling where everything has to be explained on the table the moment that something is said. And to me, it's so unsatisfying. So I'm really excited that this series got as much viewership and kind of love and attention as it did. On the other hand, I also think that with whatever they do for the next season, that they should try to push things forward just a little bit faster. There were moments in this entire season when I felt maddeningly like they were pulling the story through molasses to prolong it for just the reason of prolonging it, not because it served a plot purpose. And so, I that is my only that's the only detracting thing from this season for me.
You know, to be honest with you, that after reading the novel, this is more of a movie than a TV series.
Mm.
The because there's really not a whole lot of there to stretch it out for 10 episodes. I think. Um, so I think this would have made a great 2 hour movie.
Yeah, well, definitely. Although I am glad that they did it as a series because I do feel like we have so much character development, and if they put Ralph and Holly together as the detective team, then that could really open up doors for a Van Helsing kind of agency, where they've already had experience with supernatural, and so there's lots of there's the pragmatic Scully and Mulder, the
Definitely had a
ID
Mulder and Scully
and
vibe.
yeah, but Van Helsing vibe to it, like we're monster hunters. I think that could be totally epic and amazing. I my I think in some ways though it is that I should say it this way. It is that character development which leads me to believe that anything they did from this point forward could be awesome. And I don't think we could have gotten there if we only had a small movie. A short movie wouldn't have done it.
Yeah, 2 hour movie. I think you could have told the whole story. Um, and I think you could have told the whole story in it.
Really?
To be honest, yeah. I mean, it's really not a whole lot. It's really not a whole lot. Let's just be honest. You know.
I don't know. I mean, again, my criticism is that it was really slow, but I don't think that it was a bad choice to make it into a series. Not at
Well,
all.
of course, I don't think that because I love the show, but I'm just saying that it would have worked as a movie. I think.
Oh, yeah. I think there is some wisdom to it. Could have made a better movie. That's true.
Oh, I mean, no, I'm just saying it. I don't know if it would have been better, but it could have worked. I thought. Um, Now, I want to bring up this show, Mr. Mercedes, and the novel series. We talked about it before. Um, it, Mr. Mercedes is book one of a trilogy by Stephen King, the Bill Hodges trilogy, which is Mr. Mercedes, Finders Keepers, and End of Watch. And in that novel series, Holly Gibney is a character in all three books. Now, Holly, let's see. Uh-oh. Holly in that it's also a TV series as well. And in that TV series, uh there's the other Holly, the Holly that's on the TV series. I just finished the first season and I'm almost finished with the book. I was reading them simultaneously. And the woman who plays Holly on the TV show, Mr. Mercedes, she does a very good job. She's a really good actress. And
Her name is
she
Justine
plays,
something, right?
huh?
Her name is Justine something.
Yeah, Justine Lupe.
Yeah, that's it.
She plays a different Holly. So she's more of a Holly before she became what she is in The Outsider. So she's like, she still lives with her parents. She's, dealing with her social anxiety and her other issues. And she's really, this is her becoming more of an independent person. So the Holly is very different. I haven't seen the second and third season. I'm about to start with those second and third season. But from what I gather is that she becomes much more of a stronger character going forward. I don't know. You saw the second season without spoiling it for me or our listeners. Do we see a more of a Holly that's closer to the outsider one?
Um, maybe a little, but the outsider take of Holly was, I think, on point. So much more so than I feel like they were willing to do with Mr. Mercedes' series.
Mm-hmm.
Like they gave her the quirks. They really went out of their way to make her seem very, very different from everybody else. I've used the comparison of she's a lot like a Will Graham
Mm-hmm.
in that she can see into things that people can't normally see. But it's her personality quirks and her sort of very eclectic behaviors that make the character who the character is. And I feel like in Mr. Mercedes, they washed that down a lot. So uh, it didn't feel as hugely part of the character as it does in The Outsider.
Yeah, but remember in Mr. Mercedes, it's the evolution of Holly. So
Yeah,
she wasn't.
it's true.
Yeah, so she's not where she is in The Outsider. So you can't
That's
really
very true.
compare the two characters because she goes through what she goes through in Mr. Mercedes and the other books to become the Holly that we all love in The Outsider.
It's true. It's true. Yeah.
Do you think? I look. Don't get me wrong. Cynthia Erivo does a fantastic job as Holly. Do you do you think that it would have been interesting to have taken that actress and put her on this one? Just we've only really seen that a handful of times where a character is on another series and they bring him over to another one when one is ended. Like we saw that with Richard Belzer, was on Homicide: Life on the Street playing Munch, and then they brought him
Right.
to SVU and a bunch of other programs, and it's been done. I um besides like this would be totally different than a spinoff, being that because it's not really a spinoff at Outsider, but just in that same world or universe. So it would have been interesting, but Cynthia Erivo does a fantastic job. So it'd have been interesting. Just it would have made the bridge between those two shows even greater by having that character. But one of the writers on Mr. Mercedes is one of the main writers on Outsider, Dennis Lehane, I believe how you say his name.
Right.
He's on both shows, so that's interesting that you know that they have that that thing in common. But it's definitely both material is very different. It almost even though it's in the same world, it exists almost in a different world. From the first book, Mr. Mercedes, to the Outsider. So but then eventually in End of Watch, from what I understand, it becomes more believable that those are the same two worlds.
Yeah. I
Or the
um
same world, not the same two worlds, but the same
I,
world.
in some ways, I don't know. I guess we'll just have to wait and see what they do. To me, it feels very much like Mr. Mercedes takes place almost in an alternate universe.
Right. But did you read End of Watch?
Yeah,
Oh, okay. Because I mean, End of Watch gets supernatural, right?
right.
Right.
And
So,
don't get me wrong, right? I'm not going book.
mhm.
Uh, I'm just going um, series to series. I'm just comparing the series, not what I know happens canon in the books.
Oh no, I was talking about books.
Oh, okay.
Because I've only seen the first season of the show. Probably tonight I'm gonna start on the second season at some point. But from what I've gathered from the just reading up, what happens is they switch the third book with the second book, and because it seems like the second book, Finders Keepers, is the third book, and I think they just took some elements from the second book, but it's mainly the plot from the third book, which makes sense in this regard because the main villain in the first book returns in the third book. So they probably decided, instead of taking the whole season off to get back to him, they just probably decided, let's keep it going, and since the third book, continues that storyline.
Yeah, that's true. You're right. I don't know. I think there's a whole bunch of different ways that they could look at it, right? There's a whole bunch of ways that they could approach either crossover or not crossover. It doesn't have to be. It could be one way or it could be something completely different. Because The Outsider could be its whole separate universe. They don't have to use the Mr. Mercedes stuff. That doesn't have to be part of the Outsider universe. It just doesn't.
Well, they didn't on the TV show. They didn't make any.
That's what I mean.
I don't think they made one reference to Mr. Mercedes,
No,
Hodges, or anything. Just the fact that Holly Gibney is in both series is the only thing.
I think the only the sort of reference was doing work with her before,
right? Which is from
could have been anything, right? And that could have been anything.
Yeah, but I'll tell anyone though, Mr. Mercedes, the first season, I can only vouch for. It's very good. It's a very good show, and it's very different. Because after watching The Outsider, it took me and Miosha like a minute to get into it because the pacing and the visual aesthetic and just it was very different. And the thing that got me interested in Mr. Mercedes was my love for The Outsider. So and it was like I want more, and then I was like, well, this is kind of more in a way, and I discovered this really cool thing. But it wasn't the first episode that pulled me in. It took a couple of episodes.
Right.
And then it was like, oh, I like this. This is really good. It's good characters and stuff.
It's a very different feel. The whole series has a different feel than anything you'd see. Like, don't watch Mr. Mercedes and expect to see anything like The Outsider.
No El Cuco in there at all.
No. And it's also just really, just stylistically, it's just really different.
Right. But Brendan Gleeson, who plays Detective Bill Hodges, is very good. He's a very good actor. He does a fine job as Bill Hodges. So,
I agree with that.
Yeah. All right. So, Jen, how can we get you in social media and all that good stuff?
You can find me on Twitter at followingbliss1, and you can check out my websites at moviesmakethemeal.com. And you can head over to Studio White Wolf if you are interested in some story deconstructions.
All right. Studio White Wolf. You can get me at Kinte F on Twitter, Kinte Ferguson on Instagram. And of course, the website is indyradio.org, indyradio.org. And we'll catch you next time right here. Peace.